students. So far we have studied Newton's second law of motion, according to which the rate of change of momentum of a body is directly proportional to the applied force and takes place in the direction in which the force acts. Or we can say that we have studied the relation between force and change in momentum upon time taken. We have studied this. Okay, now we have to see, in the previous video we have seen this. You can refer to my previous video. Now in continuation to this, let us see some numericals, or we can say some application of Newton's second law. Now I have selected this question. You can see the question is, the speed time graph of a car is given below. The weight of the car is 1000 kg. Okay, now what we can see from this graph, along horizontal line time is given in terms of second, and along vertical line speed is given in meter per second, and this is the graph for the car. Okay, now it is given. Now what we have to find is, what is the distance travelled by the car in the first 2 seconds, what is the braking force applied at the end of 5 seconds to bring the car to a stop within 1 second. Okay, so to solve such type of questions, you have to keep few things in your mind. Distance travelled by the car in first 2 seconds, that means we have to consider only this area. And you know that whenever you need to find the distance in a speed time graph, what you will find? You will find the area of that particular region. And here it's a well defined shape. Our luck is very good. So it's a well defined shape, that is a triangle. And we know that the area of the triangle is half into base into height. Okay, now come to the second part. What is the braking force applied at the end of 5 seconds to bring the car? Now what we see here, at the end of 5 seconds, the car starts retardation. Retardation is there. Okay, and within 1 second, the speed of the car comes to 0. Okay, that is the time duration between this is 1 second. So for 1 second, we have to find the braking force. Now I have given the solution. That you can see distance travelled in first 2 seconds. We know that it's the area of triangle AB2, half into base into height. What we see here in the graph, base is 2, height is 15. Okay, now we have to substitute these values, half into base into height. So after solving, we get the distance covered is 15 meter. Of course the unit will be meter. It will not be in terms of square or square that we are finding the area. It will always be in terms of meter. Now come to the braking force, second part of the question. Braking force will be, we know that force is mass into acceleration. Mass of the car is already given. We need to find the acceleration. So to find the acceleration, we will simply apply the formula, since you have not studied slope. So we can say that it is final velocity minus initial velocity divided by time. So from the graph you can see the final velocity is 0. The initial velocity is 15. Okay, retardation is there. Definitely you will be getting the acceleration in terms of negative sign. So it is v minus u by t. Substitute this value, we get a is equal to minus 15. So substituting this, we get force is equal to mass into acceleration. Hence it is minus 15,000 Newton. Okay, now you can neglect this sign, since opposing force is applied. So we are getting the answer in terms of negative. Okay, so you can write this also. If you are writing the braking force applied, it will be simply this. If you are not writing braking force, you will write the negative sign here. Now come to the next numerical. A force of 5 Newton gives a mass m1 and acceleration of 8 meter per second square. Force is 5 Newton and mass m1, the acceleration is 8 meter per second square. When the same force is applied on mass m2, The acceleration is 24 meter per second square. Now our question is, what acceleration would it give if both the masses are tied together? Our question is, if both the masses are tied together and the force remains same, what will be our acceleration? We need to find this. So let us study the cases. Force is 5 Newton, mass is m1, is 8 meter per second square. So from substituting the values, we get mass 1 is 5 by 8, or we can say it's 0.625 kg. Now case 2 is same force is there, mass is m2 and acceleration is 24 meter per second square. So mass will become 0.208 kg. Now we need to find when the two masses are tied together, what will be our acceleration. So let us see, when two masses are tied together, mass will be 0.833 kg. So in this case, acceleration will be 5 upon 0.833, that is 6. After solving this, after removing the decimal, how you will remove the decimal? 0.833. To remove the decimal, multiply both numerator and denominator by 1000. So we get, after simplifying, we get it as 6 meter per second square. Now let us start Newton's third law of motion. According to Newton's third law of motion, it states that to every action there is equal and opposite reaction. Okay, so it simply states that it's well understood that if there is action, always equal and opposite reaction takes place. Okay, in our daily life also we can see the application of Newton's third law. Now let us see some of the applications. When we walk on a ground, our foot pushes the ground backward. Okay, this is the best application in our daily life. When we are walking, what we see, we move forward. The basic reason behind that is our foot pushes the ground backward, and in return the ground also pushes our foot forward. Action and reaction takes place. So the forward reaction exerted by the ground on our foot makes us move forward. Okay, now here few points you need to remember, so I have given the note. It is difficult to move on a slippery ice. Why? Because their friction is very less. You can see that whenever ice is there, the surface is plain, so friction is not there. And now second case is, a swimmer pushes the water backward with his hand and feet to move in forward direction in water. When the swimmer pushes the water backward, in return the water pushes the swimmer forward. So as a result, the swimmer is able to move forward. Now next is, though action and reaction forces are equal in magnitude, magnitude means their value is always same, but they don't produce equal and opposite equal acceleration in the two bodies. Why? We know that if force is equal, acceleration cannot be equal. Force depends on mass and acceleration both, but the mass of the two bodies are not always equal. Okay, so this is the reason behind where action and reaction forces are equal, but they don't produce equal acceleration because they have different masses. The acceleration produced will be more in the body having less mass. We know that. What is the relation between acceleration and mass? We know that they are inversely proportional. Less the mass, more the acceleration. More the mass, less the acceleration. Okay, so it is based on this principle. Now come to the best example, that is when a bullet is fired from a gun. The force sending the bullet forward is equal to the force sending the gun backward. Okay, the gun is there. Okay, suppose this is the gun. Bullet is fired from the gun. So what happens? As soon as the bullet moves forward, the jerk is there to maintain the equal and opposite reaction, the jerk is there, the gun will get jerked, and this process is known as recoiled. Recoiling of the gun. The gun is said to have recoiled. Now next example application of Newton's third law is the flying of jet aeroplanes in rockets. In the modern jet aircrafts, the hot gases obtained. Jet aircrafts, they are horizontal. So in the modern jet aircrafts, the hot gases obtained by the burning of the fuel rush out of a jet or nozzle at the rear end. The back end of the jet aircraft is known as nozzle. With a great speed, the equal and opposite reaction of the backward going gases pushes the aircraft forward at a great speed. Now next is the rocket also works on the same principle of action and reaction. The only difference is that the rocket can propel itself even in vacuum, whereas jet aircrafts cannot propel itself. Okay, so this is the reason why the rockets are sent in the space. So because it does not require air for obtaining uplift or for burning its fuel, whereas in case of a jet aircraft, they need air to provide an uplift and also to burn its fuel. Now fourth application is the case of a boat and a ship. So if a boat is there and what happens, the boatman pushes the water backward with oars. This is known as oars. Always you can see whenever we have to move the boat forward, we have to push the oars backward. This is the case of a small boat. The water exerts an equal and opposite push on the boat, which makes the boat move forward. Now what if there is a ship? The propeller of a ship are at its back ends. Whenever the big ships are there, the propeller is always at the backward end. They exert a backward force on water in the sea, and the equal and opposite reaction exerted by the water on the ship moves the ship forward. Okay. Now next is the case of a hose pipe. What do you mean by hose pipe? Hose pipe means the pipe which mostly fire brigade vehicle brings. Okay. So the backward movement of the hose pipe is due to the backward reaction of water rushing through it in the forward direction at a great speed. Whenever the fireman holds the hose pipe and whenever the water rushes out, suddenly what happens? Sometimes if the fireman is not alert, it falls down. Why? Because the water rushing through it is in the forward direction at a great speed. As a result, the fireman has to apply the same force to hold the pipe. Next is the case of a horse pulling a cart. To make the cart move, whenever cart is there, the horse bends forward. When the horse is simply standing, that means the force is balanced. So to make the force greater to pull the cart, the horse bends forward and pushes the ground with its feet. When the forward reaction to the backward reaction push of the horse is greater, then only the opposing frictional force of the wheels and the cart moves. Okay. Now come to our next topic, that is conservation of momentum. This is the last topic. So we already know that momentum is equal to mass into velocity. This law states that when two or more bodies act upon one another, their total momentum remains constant, provided no third external force are acting. So we can say that momentum is never created or destroyed. It is always conserved. That's why the heading is given law of conservation of momentum. Now let us see, let us consider the case. Suppose two bodies, a bigger truck and a smaller car, are moving in the same direction. Both are moving in the same direction towards it, but with different speed. or velocities. Let the mass of the truck be m1, mass of the car be, these are the pre-assumptions we have to take. Mass of the car be m2, initial velocity be u1, final initial velocity of the car be u2, okay, final velocity of the truck be v1 and final velocity of the car be v2. These are the assumptions. If we know the mass and velocity, initial velocity, what will be the initial momentum? Initial momentum of the truck will be m1 u1, initial momentum of the car will be m2 u2, okay. Now, because momentum is mass into velocity, these are the assumptions. So, what we see here, the total momentum of the truck and the car before collision will be m1 u1 plus m2 u2, that is the initial momentum of the truck, initial momentum of the car. When we add both of them, we will get the total momentum of the truck and the car. So, here are the assumptions. We have to consider three cases: momentum before collision, during collision and after collision, okay. Now, let us see, suppose the truck and the car collide for a short interval of time. The interval is very short. So, due to collision, the velocity of the truck and the car will change. Definitely it will change. The truck is heavier, the car is smaller, lighter than the truck. So, let the velocity of the truck after collision be v1. We have already assumed final velocity of the car be v2. So, the momentum of the truck and the car after collision will be m1 v1 plus m2 v2. Suppose the truck and the car collide for a short interval of time. So, due to collision, the velocity and the velocity of the truck and the car will change and the final momentum will become m1 v1 plus m2 v2. Suppose that during collision the truck exerts a force F1 on the car. The truck is exerting the force on the car, and in turn the car also exerts the force F2 on the truck, okay. So, when the force F1 of the truck acts on the car for a time t, then the velocity of the car changes from u2 to v2. So, the acceleration of the car will be v2 minus u2 upon t, or we can say force is equal to mass into acceleration. So, F1 will become, see here, this is the force exerted by the truck on the car. So, here we will write the momentum of mass into acceleration of the car. Mass of the car is m2, acceleration of the car is v2 minus u2 divided by t. Now, let us see the second case. Now, in result, the force F2 of the car reacts on the truck for a short time. Then, the velocity of the truck changes from u1 to v1. So, what happens? Acceleration of the truck will be v1 minus u1 final velocity minus initial velocity by time. So, F2 will be m1 into v1 minus u1 divided by t. From Newton's third law, force are equal and opposite. So, F1 is equal to F2, but due to opposite direction it will be minus F2. Substituting equation F1 and F2 from 1 and 2, we get mass into acceleration of the truck, mass and acceleration of the car. Now, simplifying this, what we get? We come to the conclusion that total momentum before collision is always equal to total momentum after collision. So, this is known as the law of conservation of momentum. Okay. Now, come to the applications. Best example is working of rockets and jet aeroplanes. We have briefly already seen this working. The chemicals inside the rocket burn and produce high velocity blast of hot gases. So, this is the rocket and the fuel chemicals are burning. So, end result, what happens? The gases pass out through the tail nozzle of the rocket and in downward direction with the tremendous speed of velocity, and the rocket moves up to balance the momentum of the gases. Although the mass of the gases emitted is comparatively small, but they have a very high velocity and hence a very large momentum. An equal momentum is imparted to the rocket in the opposite direction. So, in spite of its large mass, the rocket goes up with a high velocity. Now come to the case of a jet aeroplane. In jet aeroplanes, a large volume of gases produced by the combustion of the fuel is allowed to escape through a jet in the backward direction. Of course, it's a horizontal direction. Here the fuel burns and the combustion of the fuel is allowed to escape through a jet in the backward direction. So due to very high speed or velocity, the backward rushing gases have a large momentum and they impart an equal and opposite momentum to the jet aeroplane, due to which the jet aeroplanes move forward with a great speed. Now come to the second example application. Momentum is conserved when a bullet is fired from the gun. Initially, before a bullet is fired from the gun, both the bullet and the gun are at rest. Both are at rest. So, before a bullet is fired, the initial momentum of the bullet and gun both are 0 because the velocities are 0 because they are at rest. Now, when a bullet is fired from the gun, then the bullet has the momentum given by mass of the bullet into velocity of the bullet, and the bullet imparts an equal and opposite momentum to the gun, due to which the gun jerks backward. The gun is said to be recoil. The backward velocity of the gun is called recoil velocity, and the momentum acquired by the gun is mass of the gun into recoil velocity of the gun, definitely mass into velocity. So according to law of conservation, momentum of the bullet is always maintained by the momentum of the gun, hence mass of the bullet into velocity of the bullet is always equal to mass of the gun into recoil velocity of the gun. Now come to some numericals. The question is, a bullet of mass 10 gram, the mass of the bullet is 10 gram, is fired from the gun of mass 6 kg with a velocity of 300 meter per second. You have to calculate the recoil velocity of the gun. Mass is given, convert it in terms of kg, velocity of the bullet is given. Now we will apply the formula. Mass of the gun is given 6 kg. You can see it's very mass of the gun is quite heavier than that of the bullet. Now recoil velocity of the gun we have to calculate. Substitute the values. What we get here? We get the velocity of the gun is 0.5 meter per second. Now come to the next numerical. A 10 gram bullet travelling at 200 meter per second strikes the bullet. The gun is there, the bullet is, we have fired the bullet and the target is there. The weight of the mass of the target is 2 kg, okay, and the mass of the bullet is 10 gram. Its velocity is 200, quite high velocity, 200 meter per second. Is originally at rest. The target is at rest but free to move. At what speed does the target move off? The bullet is fired, it gets embedded in the target. So let us see. We know that momentum before collision is always equal to momentum after collision. So we will apply the formula. Mass of the bullet into velocity of the bullet is equal to mass of the, because the bullet is embedded in the target. So this is the mass of the bullet plus mass of the target. So we will get the velocity of the bullet plus target both. Okay. So now substitute this was the only thing that you all need to keep in mind, that here once the bullet gets embedded in the target, we have to take the mass of the bullet and target both. Okay. Now substituting the values, here we will get 2, here we will get 2.01, and thus the velocity of the bullet and the target is 0.99 meter per second. Thank you students.